Welcome, everybody. Did you know that Sonic has... Earth is called Sonic's World now? Did you know that? Did you know that it was called Earth, or did you know it was called Mobius, but not really? Nobody knows. That's what today's discussion's about, is we don't know what's happening because the developers don't know what's happening. But today we brought an expert on this matter, David the Lurker. Welcome back, David.
Oh, hello. I have my atlas here. I can see it does say that we now live on a place called Sonic's World.
Right, and we also have Mikonos Fan.
Hi, I'm here for the ride.
Games Enlisted.
I want to go to Sonic 'S World.
Oh.
Right. So, if you live in the West, then you're
Sorry.
probably speak the language that allows you to know what I'm saying. Sonic was originally from Earth in Japan, but for some reason we decided he's from Mobius. But then later, I think Sonic Adventure 2 might be the earliest reference to actually calling it Earth in Western media. And then after that, it no longer was Earth, it's Sonic's World, except maybe Human Planet's its own planet and Sonic's from his own planet. And classic Sonic is no longer from Sonic's World, but it's from a different dimension. We don't know. Maybe it's... So today we're talking about 2-world theory or 3-world theory. I don't even know. But, David, you take over now, because you know a lot more about this than I do. That was the worst intro I've ever done.
Oh,
that was
wow.
the worst intro.
You could redo it in post.
What we're talking about is how the fucking Sonic series makes no sense because
Right.
the people who make it don't care or don't care enough to be consistent, and how when you get one of them in a dark corner and you say, look, I care too much about this and I have questions, and you see the fear in their eyes, and you say, the 2-world theory, as we've said many times on our Let's Play channel, Mr. Izuka, hopefully you've seen it, the 2 worlds theory doesn't work. It is inconsistent with one of the main pillars of the Sonic the Hedgehog story, Sonic Adventure.
This is true.
Because your 2-world theory indicates that there is a wormhole that Sonic just kind of dabs through every couple of years. And he either emerges from the land of the animals, which doesn't have humans except for the humans that it does have, to go to the world of the humans, which is where Sonic Adventure 2 and Shadow and Sonic 06 are supposed to happen.
Right.
But it doesn't work because if Sonic Adventure 2 happens in the human world, but it happens in the same world as Sonic Adventure, which it has the Angel Island. So tell me, Izuka.
I have an answer.
Oh.
I know what the answer is.
Okay.
The answer
Okay,
is
Izuka, what's the answer?
The answer is Sonic X.
No, that's not a good
It's not
answer.
canon.
It's Sonic Sonic and the people are in their own world doing their things. They do a dumb chaos control thing, and then whoop, they're all back on Earth. So then the events of Sonic Adventure, Adventure 2, etc., all take place at a certain point, probably up until Unleashed. Then around that time, they all go back to their home planet, and then Colors and the rest of the games happen. So that's how those
Except-
games happen.
No, Stefan. In Sonic Adventure, there is a big area where there's a giant pit. And that's where Angel Island came from originally, and that's in the human world.
Okay, so maybe we should touch a little bit on the concept of where the 2 worlds concept actually came from outside of Sonic X. I mean, we got to go back to Sonic X, but I think we need to start where there were, the initial rumblings of, wait a minute, is there actually a 2-world thing going on? We never had any reason to believe the classic games and the adventure games and what were considered the modern games, like, let's say, even up to Sonic Unleashed, that there was any split in the timeline as to the location. Like, it was Sonic's world, but it was also just Earth. Like, it was where he lived. It all took place in one location. Now, I believe the first rumblings that this wasn't the case were actually like little hints, leaks that were on 4chan. Now, this was back in the day when, 4chan still wasn't very good, but it was a different not good than the not good it is now. And I believe it was probably on the V-board where people were like, oh, I've seen the Bible, the canon, the Sonic Bible that currently exists. And this would have been like post-Unleashed, because after Knight's Journey of Dreams came out, Sega Studios, which was originally Sonic Team USA, they went back to Japan, they merged together, they were one team, Iizuka was put in charge. Before then, it was two teams that were doing stuff both in Japan and the U.S. And so there was some sort of consolidation of the team, and then apparently they also wrote a new draft of whatever the Sonic Bible is. And those things were... certain aspects were leaked on 4chan, which included, hey, there's two worlds, they hop back and forth. There was a random line that said, oh, on the human world there's a Mars, and then the Mars equivalent in Sonic's world is Mobius, which was trying to say, hey, Mobius isn't Sonic's world is Sonic's world, but there is a Mobius in Sonic's world, but it's like Mars, so nobody lives there, let's, deal with that. And that was also where the idea of only Sonic can turn super, or other hedgehogs, that Tails and Knuckles being super, aren't a thing. Like, it was all part of that leak, and so people wondered, hey, is this true, or did somebody make it up? Because this was also in the era of Wentos leaking stuff on 4chan, and people were like, ooh, I wonder what these secrets are.
The better days.
Right. I think the first time it was actually confirmed that there was meant to be two worlds in the current Sonic canon was actually on a podcast through Sega Bits, in which Barry the Nomad asked Aaron Weber directly, is this true? Is this canon? And this is also around the time, because I think he was also trying to get the name of the Sonic 4 island out of him. And he was like, technically yes, but let's not talk about it. So it was very brushed under the table, but there was a certain confirmation that this is true. And so that's, and so follow-up questions, of course, occurred at various Sonic fan gatherings, like Sonic Boom. I don't think there was any questions at the 25th anniversary party, but South by Southwest has certainly been brought up. And I know for interviews during the Mania Forces development cycle, Iizuka doubled down on, yes, there are two worlds. Like, he clearly stated, this is the fact, and then also tripled down with the idea that Classic Sonic was also from another world, but an alternate dimension, which then opens up many more questions, because there still is Eggman, who's a human in the classic world. So does that mean the classic universe also has two worlds, or is that somehow one world? But that was never clarified, because it probably didn't matter, or they didn't care. So, I mean, that's a very shortened version of the timeline of, hey, where did this concept come from? Now, I mean, it is involved in Sonic X, but Sonic X clearly, like, from the start, it shows that it's not actually part of the games. It adapts the games at certain points, but they do deviate from the source material in multiple ways, the least of which is Chris Thorndike crying through the entire Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 adaptations.
Now, what I'm saying is that I'm not saying Sonic X exactly happens. I'm just saying that might be the easiest way of making it connect, is that whole, they all get sucked over to Earth, and then they go through a portal to go back at the end of all the Earth adventures. Like, and say Sonic X didn't have, like, it's not like, say, Sonic Adventure 2, then they go back. I would say in this kind of version, yeah, Shadow happens, 06 happens, Unleashed happens, and then, because it's like, Unleashed is like the last one where it's like they're with people, they're in like an Earth, like an Earth-like world, because then in Colors, there's the big spaceship in the sky, Lost World, they go to a weird planet, and then Forces, where it's just animals everywhere, and it's a lot more. It
doesn't explain all the Echidna ruins and the Mystic ruins, though.
That's where everything has issues, is Sonic Adventure. If it wasn't for that game,
it
would all be more clear-cut.
And obviously the answer is retcons. It's they didn't think about, they aren't thinking about this stuff.
Right.
I think if we're going for like the quote unquote like correct answer with all this, it's basically, I would have to probably say, is that Iizuka and the people think that by limiting Sonic to the quote-unquote human world, they're kind of limiting what they can do, which is, it's obviously wrong, but it's like, from their perspective, you can kind of see how especially like with their decision-making, you can see how they would come to that decision. So they're like, let's just have like the Sonic world where it's like the wacky, goofy, kind of more colorful, more with like where like these alien animal creatures like live and hang out, and then you have the human world, which is just our regular world, even though all the games beforehand were able to play with the flexible reality well, I'm about to say with no issue, but I guess it's probably also a case of a lot of complaints. It's taking in those complaints of people complaining about the flexible reality of this. It's an Earth, but there's like these weird Sonic elements in it, and also Sonic interacting with humans, which they don't like. I think it's them kind of doubling down on that whole, oh, people complained about that, so we're just going to get rid of it altogether.
Yeah, there was definitely a vocal group of fans at the time when Sonic Adventure was unveiled that were upset at the fact that they were human beings interacting. Most of these, I mean, they were definitely Western fans. I don't think any fans in Japan, because they do exist technically somewhere, had any issues with the idea of Sonic the Hedgehog interacting with human beings. And the team certainly, I don't think, had any issues at the time, because we do have to remember that the original Sonic the Hedgehog was developed on a conceptual level as there are other human beings that exist in this world, we just don't need to see them. Like, there's Sonic, and there's Eggman, and he's a human. And then there's Madonna, who is also very much a human being. I don't know if you've seen the art. She's got the human parts, you know?
She's Jessica Rabbit.
She might have a tail in there somewhere.
No.
You haven't looked.
No, I mean, there are... In the Sonic 1 promotional manga that was released in Japan, the 3-volume one, there are human-esque... They're like bunny girls. I mean, they look like Playboy bunnies, essentially, or like the very generic anime girl in the bunny ears. So, but I mean, Madonna does not have a tail. Like, she, even Oshima, when he talks about her, he calls her, this is Sonic's human girlfriend. So, like, there was never the idea of there are no other humans. Because the original Sonic game, there's two principal characters, and one is an anthropomorphic hedgehog, and the other is an egg-shaped human being. There was never, like, oh, Eggman is different, Eggman is weird, people don't understand why Eggman is here. But the Western canon started incorporating the idea of Eggman is an anomaly in this world. You think about the UK book Stay Sonic, they say, hey, Kintobor showed up in a spaceship. He's from somewhere else. Mobius is an alien planet. You have Satayam, where it's like, here's Robotnik and Snively, and everyone else is not a human. Like, there's a ton of other anthropomorphic beings running around, and the plot, the conceptual backstory was even, hey, Mobius was Earth, but now it's not. Everyone's an animal. Deal with it. There was always that division of, this is a planet of animals. Robotnik is unusual, but the Japanese canon never made that distinction. It would reference the idea of, like, no, this is Earth, and that was doubled down in Sonic Adventure 2, where they actually said the word Earth, and they also said Robotnik and Eggman in the same game. They were trying to bring together everything and say this is one cohesive whole. And I mean, there are those dribbles in the Sonic Adventure plot where you talk to the NPCs that are standing around, and none of them are freaked out that Sonic is there. They ask, like, oh, how's Angel Island doing? Which would imply they know about Angel Island and Sonic saving it. If Angel Island wasn't there, that means Sonic hopped over to this alternate universe, said, hey guys, I did this thing. They weren't immediately frightened by him, and then just wrote about it, even though it had zero impact on their own day-to-day lives.
There's a guy who's more scared by a frog jumping around than a huge cat or anything like that, you know?
That's right.
Just throwing that out there.
He's scared of frogs. How can he be scared of frogs? It's just Froggy. But yeah, so you've got that going on, and yes, the Echidna Ruins, like that is like the main fact of how Sonic Adventure must exist in one world, because there is a, like, here's the ruins and there's a big hole, and then we know that in the past the ruins aren't ruins there, and then here's the tiny island when the Master Emerald is, where assumedly there will be a hole in the future. So there's definitely, like, oh, these people are exploring these ruins. They aren't going to an alternate dimension. They aren't hopping on a minecart and flying through a portal. This is all one world. And I guess that idea could work, because even when you look at the development of the Sonic the Hedgehog art style in the classic games, like, you look at Green Hill Zone, and it's very surreal, and there are the loop-de-loops and the checkered ground and the, like, 3D inspired palm trees. But then you look at Angel Island Zone in Sonic 3, there are more realistic graphics, realistic looking sprites in that level, right? You don't see the same sort of checkerboard landscape. The palm trees have leaves that look more real, for lack of a better word. There's definitely this idea of, hey, we're playing with elements where it's still very clearly Sonic. There's floating platforms and the rings and weird things and weird ruins, but there are elements, there's shades of more real life. And then that continues on with Sonic Adventure, where they're like, we really want to try and do that. Because I guess the original Sonic, the surreal aspect of it was inspired by the fact that 3D models at the time looked weird and surreal. But then as 3D got better, Sonic also evolved to look better. And you could say, like, they kind of forgot that that the surreal look of the original games is what gave it its charm, and that it wasn't... The people playing Sonic 1 weren't looking for that sort of detailed realism that they then tried to do in Sonic Adventure. But there is a place for both, especially if it's like humans are over here and there's no humans over there, so different places are going to look different, just like in real life, where different cultures have different architecture, and how there are wonders of the world that look like they're from an alien planet, but they're really just in our backyard. Like, they can coexist in one single location.
It is kind of funny, though, to like be in this Station Square area, and then like maybe if you walk 5 miles in one direction, there's Green Hill. Like, it is kind of... I do understand how people were a little upset about the tone shift when Adventure came out, but yeah. So why do you think they retconned it? I mean, do you think that started with Heroes? Because Heroes went back to the playful style, and also the moon wasn't destroyed immediately after SA2.
But then Shadow was right after that, so I think Heroes is just a weird detour where they're like, we want to try doing another classic style game, but then since they were going right back to Shadow, it's like they're still looking at it as this is all still Earth. I think the turning point, like a lot of things, was 06. I think 06, with its super hyper realistic style, with like the realistic looking humans and all that, and even though Unleashed went on to like kind of better like stylize how a Sonic world would be, I think that didn't help things, because people are like, oh, we don't want to play a Sonic game and have like people in it, or even like just an idea of like our world in general. So I think that was like a big criticism, that they just kind of went the complete opposite way of like, okay, we'll just completely get rid of anything human related, because we got so much flack for it, for even though it's obviously a case of that wasn't the exact reason why you got so much flack for it. It was like stuff like the execution of what you did, but they of course just went the extreme, just like how they got rid of playing basically as all the other characters because of the extreme overreaction to people complaining about too many playable characters. So like they just went the opposite direction of like, oh, now it's only Sonic all the time.
Yeah, kind of like we were talking about recently with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it honestly feels like with a lot of what Sega Sonic Team, like a lot of their decisions are kind of taking like they see like certain criticisms, and they either take the wrong direction from those criticisms or go to a more extreme. So like they see too realistic for 06. All right, let's just completely get rid of Earth in general. Just don't touch it at all. And if we have to, we'll say two world theories. So say if we want to do Earth again, we'll have say, oh, now Sonic travels to Earth and do stuff. But if we don't want Earth, then we could be like Sonic lives on his own weird planet and forces with all the other animal characters.
When was the last time we saw humans?
Unleashed. Technically Generations, but Generations is a weird thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, because Generations also, like, it has to function in with the concept that it's all one world, right? Because if Eggman has the Time
Right.
Eater thing, he takes control of it and it's like, I just ate
It's not the Space Eater.
No.
It's the Time Eater.
Right. So it eats all of time, and the places that Sonic goes to are the places he had adventures. But it's not. Oh, I also ate the timeline of this other universe that we like to hop over to. It's just
Right.
It's presented as this is one timeline, as in here's Sonic 1 and 2 and Knuckles. 3 didn't happen. It's fine. I guess CD's over here in a corner. No references to Shadow. It's fine. Or Shadow the Hedgehog the game. There's definitely references to Shadow the Hedgehog the Shadow, and yeah, like it. But it presents it as one thing, and it even has 06, because you could argue that this is Sonic's world, and they altered the timeline and changed it, but that was part of the original timeline. These are fragments from an event that no longer happened, but it's still connected to the one universe. It's not it's not being presented as like this is an entirely different dimension or universe. And so you have the adventure games next to Heroes, next to 06, next to Colors. Like, it's all in a big line with the classic games. So, like, that's... yeah. But I definitely do agree with the idea, especially, like, of older Sonic team, that a lot of games and ideas were responses to the harshest criticisms of what came before. Like, when it came to, Sonic Adventure 2 got rid of the hub worlds and some of the more extraneous characters because people complained about it, and then Heroes is we're going back to a more Sonic-y look because people complained about the realism, and then Shadow was people who were complaining that Sonic didn't have a gun because there were people who complained that Sonic didn't have a gun, and then and so like 06 is people really want the adventure formula back, and they get that, and it's just sort of this that continuous notion of they're trying to fix what the loudest people are saying instead of just focusing on making a game, and I think that the element is part of it, the fact that there aren't humans in the game, because there were a lot of vocal people that did not like humans running around in Sonic's world, and I think it has a lot to do with SatAM and Mobius and what Western Sonic was, as opposed to what the Japanese Sonic, Sega Sonic, the game universe was actually about. It was always about the Western media, the different interpretations, and I think
and I think that perfectly explained because a lot of the reason behind the 3 universe, 3 world stuff has to do with brand, and the fact that Sonic has such a complicated brand in terms of that nobody in the fan base knows what they want, or everybody has different opinions on what they want. So this is kind of their way of trying to appease to everyone while in turn just making things more confusing. Like, say they'll have a universe just for classic Sonic because they're like, hey, there are people who only like classic Sonic, so we'll create a pocket universe where we only make classic Sonic games, and like that's where all they exist. Just the problem ends up being that you have to actually make those, and right now there's only been one game, and right now we're not exactly sure if there's going to be more of that, because it's basically just a case of we're doing this just in case we feel like it. So say, for example, they have the Mobius-esque Sonic's world because they're like, we want to make the more wacky, crazy Sonic games that don't have the humans or whatever, then we'll do that. But say, for example, if they want to put the plug on Adventure 3 and have humans involved in it again, then here's the human world that the Sonic characters can get involved in. It's all brand talk. They're keeping things in their basket so that if they feel like it, they can pull it out and use it. Like right now, they don't want to focus on the human world, so that's just in the corner. But if they want to, they can grab it out. But I just feel like that's both lazy and kind of like annoying project distribution. I think like a lot of like franchises and series kind of do that. Like when they're like focused on keeping a brand alive in a certain way, is that they kind of make excuses for their story or whatever just so that they can do a certain thing, when I feel like just go all the way. Just go all the way with the decision. Do what you want to do, and if you feel like you need to change it later, then change it later. It's a crazy time travel mess space whatever with a running blue hedgehog. You can get away with that, and most people will just be fine with it. Just tell your story, tell your game that you want to do.
Because honestly, there's no need. I don't see a need for the divide, honestly, because if they were still making classic games and still making modern games concurrently, is that the word I want, that, you know, nothing in the classic series really precludes anything from happening in the 3D games, you know?
Right.
So I don't see why there has to be this hard split of like, oh, Sonic just goes to a different world. It's like, it can be the same world. Like, the weird worlds of Sonic Mania and Sonic 3 doesn't mean there can't be, like, station squares and metropolises and arcs. You know, granted, like, Sonic Colors gets a little complicated, but the second you stick a giant space station, space needle that somehow doesn't defy Earth's orbit, yeah, that gets a little weird. But, you know, overall, I get why they would do the split. I just don't think I ever felt the need for it, and that's what's always weird to me, because it just makes things more complicated than it really is, like, or needs to be.
And like Forces is really the only one that it's like, oh yeah, Forces has to take place in Sonic's world. Like Lost World takes place in a on a new planet, so it's like, oh,
it's just in the sky.
It's in the sky, and same with King Colors is in a space station. So it's like both of those you could very easily say, oh, Earth, like when they're sucking the energy out of the planet, oh, you can say that's Earth. And then when Sonic comes back down from the amusement park, oh, they're on Earth as well. It's like you can clearly see that. It's just when you have Forces and you have like all the miscellaneous weird animal characters that they have, and the fact that it's like this well, it's a global story, but it's like you don't really see that like global. It's just, oh, there's this continent and then that continent and then the space station. That's it. But it's like, yeah, that one's clearly, and especially, I mean, when you see Forces, you can tell there was a lot of tweaking and a lot of you can tell there's like so many last minute edits to that story in that game. So it's like you don't even know like what the original intention of it was, or like, so it confuses up like just that whole like mess of that how that game was that game was structured, just adds to the confusion.
I mean, the Two Worlds theory just doesn't make sense because, well, it makes Sonic Adventure contradict itself, but I think also it needlessly overcomplicates the Sonic the Hedgehog universe, because if there being two worlds was important, you would think that it would be touched upon as a story beat at some point. You think about Adventure 2 Heroes Shadow. Heroes seems to be taking place in what would be called Sonic's world. Adventure 2 and Shadow are the human world. So that means that Shadow the Hedgehog falls to Earth, almost dies, Eggman kidnaps his comatose body, puts it in a tube, takes it back to Sonic's world.
Takes it back to Sonic's world.
Right. Puts that tube underground. Rouge finds out about it. Rouge, who works for Gun sometimes, but I guess goes back to Sonic's world because she also likes looking for treasure over there. Then finds Shadow, goes, "Oh heck, baby, this makes us a team because I'm Rouge the Bat, and there's three of us, and this is the game where three people play at once." And then, after Heroes is done, and Shadow's like, "I don't remember anything. I have no memory. I've got the amnesia." Rouge is like, "That's cool. Why don't you go to the human world?" And he's like, "What?" It's like, "Yeah, you should come to the human world because there's definitely an alternate universe that we can jump through a magical portal, and it probably doesn't have any answers there either, but you'll be fine." He's like, "What?" And then
he's like, "Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, let's go."
Right.
Where is it?
Because if he's having a crisis of identity, the fact that there are two similar worlds that are like joined through an interdimensional portal of some kind, I think would also feed into his "who am I" shtick. Like, am I a hedgehog? Am I a robot? Am I a clone? Am I nothing? Am I from the human world? Am I from the animal world? I don't know. I'm Shadow the Hedgehog. See, that that would play into the very concept of the game, but it doesn't, because it wasn't a thing then. And so to artificially make it a thing when it's not addressed in something like Sonic Generations, where it could be, and it doesn't need to exist for Lost World, and I would argue it doesn't need to exist for Forces. If we consider Forces being part of the main timeline, which in a separate video I've explained is not the case, but if we were to consider it, if we were to consider that Forces is the game that takes place after Lost World, then it's just like, oh, well, there's some animals running around, but it's an army of tens of tens running at all those Phantom Ruby clones that are charging at them. It could just mean there's a bunch of animals that are living together, right behind this mountain, and that the humans all live in Station Square because segregation.
Oh,
I mean,
Boy, I didn't think this was going to go here.
well, I mean,
Wasn't that part of the plot of the early Archie comics? Is that the humans were basically segregated from the rest of the world?
let's just stay separated.
right. Well,
They're the overlanders.
right. I mean, in Archie, they kind of leaned in heavily to like it. They were making a very obvious racism parallel, which is like,
Penders has admitted that's what he was trying to do.
well, Penders has tried to do many things,
Yeah.
but
I didn't say he did it good. I just said he did it.
right. But I mean, there is the concept because even when they adapt Sonic Adventure and they're the human beings that are living inside of a hollowed mountain, like they are like, oh, you guys are cool. We like you, Sonic and Sally. It is still, but there are human beings living in one place and there are animals living in another place, and they just are separated in different places. There's just that sort of thing going, because even like if you wanted to think about it, the original game, South Island, West Side Island, those are islands that probably don't have a lot of people visiting them. It's off somewhere, it's secluded. There are the native population is there, but that doesn't mean that there's suddenly all of this other stuff that's been built there that people can play with and deal with. Yeah. And I mean, I guess there are cities in the background. Something like Starlight Zone kind of looks like a real city. Like, there's nothing super crazy about it in the background. There are some loop-de-loops, but that's probably the most rounded level visually in that game.
Oh, yeah. Spring Yard.
Yeah.
Chemical Plant has a city in the background.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
like, there.
Casino Night has a city in the background.
Right, so there are, like, human-looking cities that exist in those games. We just don't see anyone who lives in them. The only other living creatures we see are the animal friends, the Flickies, the Pickies, the Pockies, the Pokies, because Sonic frees them from the Badniks, pops it, and they hop away. We don't see them hop away to a house and go inside and close the door, and then they sit down in their sofa and open up the newspaper and, put on...
Just take a deep breath of like, whew, that was something.
Right, you don't... you don't see that. And,
Their therapy sessions.
Right. So, like, we don't know exactly how they live. Do the Flickies have houses? Because the only Flicky that we... Like, in the modern version of Sonic storytelling that begins with adventure, we see a Flicky, and that Flicky doesn't talk at all. He's just got the thing, the lock-in hanging around its neck. I forget if that's the daughter or if that's the sister or there's like some contradictory translations as to how those three Flickies are related, so I forget. Like, there are different versions of, are they siblings? Is it brother, sister? Or is it like father, mother, daughter? Like but either way, it's there are those animals, and then I mean, also in Sonic Adventure there are the other weird tiny animals which don't quite work in real life, because there's a super tiny elephant that's the same size as a super tiny rabbit, and that's not quite how things work.
Well, also in Sonic 06, there's a normal Earth-like cat, but there's also Blaze the cat.
Right.
So it's like, okay.
Right, and so that would mean Blaze and Silver, for some reason, live in Sonic's world in the future, where it's just always on fire. So why wouldn't they just go back home to Sonic's world, which presumably is not on fire?
Oh, wait.
Yeah. Because 06, like, here's Soliana, there's Princess Elise. It's all humans running around. But Silver and
Brain
Blaze
hurt.
live in bad future Soliana.
Right.
They could, if there are two... And I mean, because even if you wanted to, like, weirdly, if you wanted to argue, oh no, somehow the thing got sealed off, then why aren't they interested in trying to find a way to escape to whatever their world would be, as opposed to fighting Iblis forever? They even when they go back in time, it could be like, oh, we're back in time, let's try to find the portal and get the heck out of here. This place gives me the heebie-jeebies. But that's not what they do. They don't do that at all. So even
that game has a lot of other problems regarding time travel than just why don't they just go to another world?
I mean, because then also if there are two worlds, then like the big question is, are there two sets of Chaos Emeralds? or is there just one set? And if there's one set, where does it come from? Is it from the human world, or is it from Sonic's world? And
Well, that's the thing, David. Maybe we could say that 3NK and Adventure both take place in the human world, and then, like in Heroes and Lost World, Sonic finally decided to go over to back to his place.
but then why would
I don't
Angel
know.
Island be in the human world in Sonic 3? What would be the point of that?
No, it was always there.
It's just always been there. It's just like saying that the echidnas migrated to the human world, set up a civilization.
No, they were always there.
Oh, what?
There's
Yeah, they were
animals
always there, dude.
There's animals on human world and Sonic's world. There's just no humans in Sonic's world.
Yeah, you know.
That's weird.
Um,
Right, because also it's like if Eggman builds all this stuff, and he's like, "Oh man, I'm always fighting Sonic." Why doesn't he go, "Okay, I know Sonic's in Sonic's world. I'm gonna
Right.
sneak over to the human world and take it over real fast, while Sonic is doing something else entirely." It'll be
So Sonic
mean-
Chronicles.
I've thought about that a lot before, and like to me, that explains why a lot of the games happen. Because like to me, Sonic Unleashed is Eggman, tippy-toed away and did that. Then Sonic, I don't know, goes to the fucking North Pole, I guess, and pokes his head through the portal. He's like, "Oh shit!" So then he goes to handle it, because that's the only way so much of this shit makes sense. Like the space station, that's like Eggman and Sonic shook hands, and he's like, I'm not doing anything. So Sonic's like, all right, cool, I'm gonna nap. Then like 8 months later, he's like, oh, there's an entire space station through the portal. Oh, I guess I'll go do that. Because how else does anything in the series? I hate it. I overthink it because I know you, David.
what?
If I didn't know you, I'd just be like, yeah, these games suck and the stories don't make sense. But you make me think, and that's the issue. Because I start being like, I guess I do care about the characters. I guess I do care about the story. Why doesn't any of this make sense? Why am I still making videos about Sonic the Hedgehog?
Oh, that's because everything makes perfect sense.
Oh, okay.
David, maybe there's only one set of Chaos Emeralds, and Sonic left them in the human world and Unleashed, and that's why we haven't seen them other than optional options.
I mean, they do play an important role in Generations.
They do. Okay, so after Generations, the Chaos Emeralds are just left in the human world, and that's why you can only unlock them as a feature, but they're not a part of the story.
That's right. I mean, they are not in. Yeah, colors.
They don't come
doesn't
back in
matter.
the story.
I think that is another case of them overcompensating for complaints. It's like people are like, "Oh, you're relying on the Chaos Emeralds too much," so now they've just stopped using them. Same with the whole, Eggman's the final boss of every game, because people were complaining about the Monster of the Week. But by now, people are like, we're tired of Eggman being the final boss. We want Monsters of the Week again.
Yeah, I saw a tweet going around. It's like, God, does anyone else miss the Monsters of the Week? Wish they'd bring that back. And I'm just like, this is the cycle I need to get used to for the next few decades if I stay paying attention to Sonic. Because I swear, in 2047, you're going to see a viral tweet that was like, man, Unleashed is still the best looking game in the series. Retweet if you agree. And they'll have 30 million retweets.
Well, that's because it's true.
It's because it's true, but man, cycles.
It's the damn Zelda cycle. It's like you like something, then you hate something, then eventually you like it again, and then eventually give it enough time and you won't like it again.
Oh, I heard.
I
heard Zelda has
probably
a really good
getting to the-
timeline.
Oh, keep going.
All right. That's all I heard. Really good time.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
Go on. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, we're probably getting to the point where,
Yeah.
Colors and Generations are terrible games, and then the next game will come out, and then it'll be like, man, why don't they make games like Generations and Colors? And then it'll be like, man, Lost World was really good, shame everyone dicked on it. Then another game will come out, and they'll be like, man, Lost World fucking sucks.
I mean,
I guess it'll
aren't
be
we
Sonic
aren't we
Runners.
on Lost World? Aren't we on Lost World was pretty good already? Because I've been seeing a lot more of Lost World is pretty decent lately.
I don't follow wrong people on Twitter.
I don't
so
know.
I guess not.
I've been seeing more positive opinions on Lost World lately, and not negative opinions, but more so not as many colors is amazing. I think there's a lot of there's still colors is good, but I don't see as much colors as amazing anymore.
That's right. When it came out, everyone loved it, and now people are like, it's fine, maybe. Yeah.
What
If
about
we... Oh, keep going.
What about the weird Sonic fans who, like, for me, for instance, I don't like forces, but I ended up collecting and S-ranking everything.
Oh, you did that?
I haven't even done that.
I don't know why I did it, but I did.
Steven, it's okay. We're here for you.
I think,
I don't know who I
I
am
think it's
anymore.
because Force is just such a simply designed game that you're like, you know what? This is much easier to do in this game than any other, so fuck it. Might as well do it.
It was
Stefan,
really easy.
How are your global
I thought you were
rankings?
going to say. I thought you were going to say this because Sonic Forces is a simp game, and I was not emotionally prepared for you to say that.
Oh, man.
Infinite a simp? I think he...
Infinite. Whatever happened to him? He disappeared.
No, he's coming back.
Disappeared.
Next year's game, he's going to be in it. And he'll be like, this is why I left in the game from 4 years ago.
Right.
And we'll be like, oh, shit. But this doesn't make sense. Let's spend 50 minutes talking about it. And then our viewers will be like, why are we here? And then Infinite will be in the next Olympic Games. And we'll be like, that's weird.
I mean, I did explain Infinite a little bit in my Is Forces Canon theory. Click
Link
it.
below.
Click it in the description below. It's right under the name of FT Computer Room. I guess it's because it is something that is floating out there. It's been stated by the person who's currently the shepherd of the Sonic series, Takashi Iizuka. Like, he has been involved with the franchise in an official capacity since, what, 1993? Yes, since
Before I was born.
before you were born. And so it's like, oh, the things he says, you feel like that should mean something. But
I think
You
the
kind of-
question. I think a question is: do you think a future game will address the two worlds? Like, will it actually show Sonic
Nope.
and their friend in Sonic World traveling to the human world, or will it just, like, say for example, if the next game is Sonic Adventure 3 and it takes place in the human world, they'll just be on the human world doing shit?
I don't think they'll ever address it in the game for sure. I think this is something that, like, every South by Southwest that happens, someone's gonna have to walk up to him and go, "Oh, Mr. Iizuka, I have a question for you," and then he'll have to be put on the spot and have to think about it.
How come Knuckles isn't guarding the Master Emerald anymore?
What about Michael Jackson in Sonic 3? Okay. Why isn't Archie allowed to put the Freedom Fighters in IDW? You should give it to Udon.
Oh, Izuka didn't even know who Chris Thorndike was. Remember when I walked on stage dressed in my normal clothes, and I said during a cosplay contest at Sonic Boom 2014, and I said I was Chris Thorndike when he was old and he wrote poetry to make a living or some shit. I don't remember. And I won second place, and then third place, and then I walked over to Izuka to get it signed, my trophy, and he's like, "Who are you?"
oh,
I'm Smoothies, bitch.
I mean, he wasn't in charge of, like, Sonic Team at that time, so it's like you can understand, but it's still, yeah, it's a.
Was that his Japanese name, Chris Thorndike?
Oh, good point. But I mean, he also, like, his English isn't the best. But it's like, also, I don't know. I was trying to.
I
make
mean,
it
I'm pretty
more
sure
of a
his
joke
name
about
was
me winning
Chris.
third place.
No, we have to dissect you. You're
no,
wrong.
no.
well, maybe
That was me getting dissected.
it's just a thing that
That's it, everybody. Thank you for joining. The conclusion is that the Sonic series doesn't make any sense,
Okay.
and that while we've established why it doesn't make sense, we'll never get an answer for if it'll ever come back to making sense, or if anyone in charge will ever care, or if someday someone new will take over the series and set a new precedent for the story for us to bitch about, and none of this will ever matter again. I've been Nikonus fan. If you want more Sonic, I'm sorry, but you can click down below and subscribe to FTCR, and we'll probably start talking about things that aren't Sonic when you hit subscribe, and you'll be like, why did I subscribe? Thank you for joining me today, Smoothies. You can find him on Twitter at /Stephen Amon, link below. Thank you for joining me today, Stefan.
Wait,
/Games Enlisted, Twitter below.
I thought you were
Thank
ending on me.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you to no one else. And thank you for joining us as ever, David.
it's so much fun.
DT Worker, link below.
Oh, right.
That's your Twitter?
You can-
Yeah, I know things.
Yep, you can.
Thanks you for joining. Bye.
David Thunderpants Lurker.
Whoa, that's. I mean, maybe after I haven't had Taco Bell in like a month. It needs to come back. I can't. Ah.